Early in the film, we see Rango talking aloud in dramatic monologues and staging elaborate plays with no audience but himself. At first glance, it might seem eccentric or comedic, but this behavior reveals something much deeper. Rango is coping with profound isolation. Having spent his life in a terrarium, disconnected from any real social environment, he uses his imagination and verbal expression to simulate interaction. This kind of self-dialogue is his way of maintaining a sense of identity, staying mentally engaged, and crafting a world where he matters. It reflects not only his creative instincts, but also his need for validation and connection. In a way, Rango becomes his own support system, performing for himself to keep loneliness at bay. Rango pretending the dolls are his friends. In one of the most telling scenes, Rango speaks to plastic dolls and toys as if they are real companions. He assigns them names, personalities, and roles in his imaginary theater. This act of anthropomorphism highlights his deep-seated need for social connection. Rango is a social creature by nature, and without real relationships, he invents them. The dolls represent the kind of community and companionship he yearns for, but has never truly experienced. By creating this make-believe world, Rango copes with the emotional vacuum of his solitary existence. It's not just play, it's survival. Rango's imaginary world isn't just a quirky character trait, it's a mirror of how we all seek connection when faced with loneliness. The movie begins with Rango, an eccentric theatrical chameleon, riding in the back of a family car in a terrarium. He's surrounded by the trappings of a constructed life, a toy fish, a headless doll, a plastic tree. He appears comfortable, even if confined. But then, in a sudden twist of fate, the car swerves and Rango is thrown from the vehicle, landing alone on a scorching desert road. The critical detail? The car drives off. No one stops. No one turns around. No one even notices he's gone. This moment is quick, almost silent, but it speaks volumes. It tells us immediately that Rango is alone, not just physically, but emotionally. The people he thought were his caretakers didn't even look back. This is more than just a plot device to set the story in motion. It's a powerful symbol of abandonment. It plants the seed of one of the film's core emotional truths. Rango has no one. He doesn't matter to the world he came from. This stark realization echoes a feeling many people can relate to, that unsettling sense that if you disappeared, no one would notice. For Rango, this becomes the defining trauma that fuels his transformation. His flamboyant performance style, his need for attention, and his desperate attempt to reinvent himself all stem from this moment of being discarded without a second thought. This moment reflects a core truth about human nature that philosophers and strategists like Sun Tzu understood deeply. You must learn to rely on yourself. Expecting rescue or recognition can be a liability. If you're not prepared to stand alone, you may not stand at all. After being abandoned on the highway and wandering through a harsh desert, Rango finds himself in Dirt, a gritty, sun-scorched town inhabited by a host of desert-dwelling animals. To them, this place is home. To Rango, it's a lifeline. From the moment he steps into Dirt, it's clear he doesn't belong. His awkwardness, bright green color, and theatrical personality make him stick out like a sore thumb. But instead of retreating or revealing his vulnerability, Rango does what he knows best. He performs. To not be seen as a stranger, Rango mimics the behaviors, speech, and swagger of the people around him. He adopts a tough, rugged cowboy persona and invents a heroic backstory filled with danger, shootouts, and larger-than-life exploits. It's all fiction, but it serves a purpose. This act of mimicry isn't just about fooling the townspeople. It's about fulfilling a desperate internal need, to be accepted, to be liked, and to feel like he belongs. Up until now, Rango has lived in isolation, surrounded by lifeless props and imaginary friends. Dirt offers something he's never had before, a real community, and he will do anything to not lose that chance. Rango's lies are born from fear. He believes that if the town saw him for who he really was, an abandoned, insecure pet with no past, they would reject him. So he crafts a version of himself that he thinks they'll admire. The fearless gunslinger, the drifter with a mysterious past, the hero they've been waiting for. Each embellishment is not just a story, it's a shield, protecting him from the rejection he's terrified of facing. Ironically, while his lies are meant to bring him closer to people, they also isolate him further. He's being accepted, yes, but for a version of himself that doesn't really exist. That contradiction sets up the emotional tension for the rest of the film. Rango's transformation in Dirt raises an important question. Is it better to be accepted for a lie or rejected for the truth? Initially, the illusion works. He becomes the town's sheriff, a symbol of hope. But as events unfold, Rango is forced to confront the reality that true connection can't be built on a performance alone. In time, he must choose whether to continue the charade or reveal his true self, flaws and all. Up to this point in the film, Rango has thrived on performance. He's worn the skin of a fearless gunslinger, spinning wild tales of adventure and earning the admiration and even love of the townspeople in Dirt. But every story built on lies has a breaking point. That breaking point comes when Rango is finally put in a position where action is required, not just words. When faced with real danger and responsibility, protecting the town, confronting true evil, or making decisions that affect others' lives, Rango falters. He's unable to deliver on the legendary deeds he claimed were part of his past because they never actually happened. He's not the brave outlaw. He's not the fearless lawman. He's just a scared, insecure chameleon who was making it up as he went. Once the truth comes out, the townspeople feel betrayed. The very community Rango worked so hard to be accepted by turns their backs on him. The weight of disappointment is heavy, not just for them, but for Rango himself. He loses their trust, their respect, and worst of all, their belief in him. It's a devastating moment, and yet it's also a necessary one. This emotional collapse forces Rango to stop hiding behind a persona. Without the audience to perform for, he's finally alone with his real self. For the first time, he faces his flaws head-on. He realizes that being a hero isn't about having an impressive past. It's about the choices you make in the present. Rather than disappear in shame or escape the consequences, Rango does something extraordinary. He returns, not as a made-up character or a legendary gunslinger, but as himself. He comes back not because he's trying to protect his reputation, but because he genuinely cares about the people of Dirt. Despite being rejected, he feels a responsibility to them, because they gave him something he'd never had before: belonging. His decision to come back, to face danger for real, marks the moment his transformation becomes complete. Rango steps into true heroism, not by pretending, but by being authentic, by putting others before himself, by choosing courage over comfort. This moment in the story delivers one of Rango's most powerful messages. Your past doesn't define you, your actions do. It's not the stories you tell, but the sacrifices you make that reveal your character. Rango's journey shows that failure isn't the end. In fact, it can be the beginning of something more honest, more human, and ultimately, more heroic. By owning his mistakes and returning to protect the town, Rango earns something far more valuable than admiration. He earns trust, real trust, and this time it's built on truth.